Bad news. If you are trapped in a cycle of abuse, it's most likely only going to get worse. Abuse almost always escalates. I'm going to talk about this today. To help get these messages out, please subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, hit the like button and the notification bell, and please share these messages with others because you never know, just by doing so, you could save a life. When you ask survivors what their last straw was during domestic violence, their answers will likely range from the first time they threatened to hit me to the first time they put me in the hospital. Survivors can pinpoint that moment in time when abuse took a sudden escalation, and for many, that's their cue to find a way to leave, and to leave fast. Others may feel trapped, either by circumstances like finances or housing that make it seem impossible to leave, or even by the hope that they can still change their abuser. Either way, the escalation is often a red flag that indicates a survivor's life is at risk. So what does escalation look like? According to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, escalation can happen either gradually or it can happen all of a sudden. So in gradual escalation, there is verbal abuse like insults, and they slowly become more harmful and degrading. Control goes from, well, I'd rather you not go out with your friends tonight, to a more demanding, I tell you when you can leave the house. Threats become more alarming, going from, you make me so mad I could punch a wall, to, I'm going to punch you if you say that again. Then there's sudden escalation. This is when abuse abruptly intensifies from, say, just threats to physical violence. It's the first time the abuser pushes, hits, or strangles a survivor. For the first time, the abuser may threaten, yell at, or physically harm the pets or the children. And it may be the first time a survivor can admit to themselves that what's happening is actually abuse. While an abuser may say they lost control or they didn't mean it when their abuse escalates, that's not true. It's a lie. Escalation is a choice that abusers make when they feel like they're losing control of the survivor, or when they want to send a very clear message. They hold the power in the relationship. Why is this so dangerous? When abuse escalates, an abuser is basically showing that they have a new way to exert power over a survivor. The abuser is becoming more emboldened, and they're moving on to the next phase of their plan to trap their victim. Escalation is not caused by something a survivor did. A survivor did not make an abuser more mad by something the survivor did or said. Abusers choose to escalate the abuse just as they choose not to de-escalate it. When an abuser has clearly shown that their abusive tactics have gone to the next level, the survivor should know two things. Number one, it's only going to get more dangerous to leave later on. And two, things can escalate, will escalate even more. Criminology expert Dr. Jane Monckton, couldn't pronounce her name, Dr. Jane Monckton Smith. She studied 372 intimate partner homicides in the UK and found an 8-stage pattern that almost all the murders had in common. 1, they had a pre-relationship history of stalking or abuse by the perpetrator. 2, the romance developing quickly into a serious relationship. 3, the relationship becoming dominated by coercive control, which we're going to talk about in these future episodes. 4, a trigger to threaten the perpetrator's control. For example, the relationship ends, or the perpetrator gets into financial difficulty or has other problems. 5, escalation, or an increase in the intensity or frequency of the partner's control tactics, such as by stalking or threatening suicide or other things. Number 6, the perpetrator has a change in thinking, choosing to move on either through revenge or by homicide. 7 is planning. The perpetrator might buy weapons or seek opportunities to get the victim alone. And number 8, homicide. The perpetrator kills his or her partner and possibly hurts others, such as the victim's children. After the relationship developed quickly and became dominated by coercive control, there was an escalation in almost all of the relationships, at which time the partner's control tactics ramped up. This was followed by planning. The perpetrator might have bought a weapon or planned a time to get the victim alone and then committed the homicide. So, what happens when there's escalation when things aren't physically violent? For those who are with a psychologically abusive partner, someone who isn't physically violent but who likes to manipulate their victim, what happens in those cases? Maybe they degrade their victim, they gaslight a survivor. With all of this, escalation can still occur. It might look like the abuser, one, not respecting a survivor's boundaries, or blaming the survivor for the abuse and not taking responsibility for his or her choices. It could be isolating the survivor more from friends and family, threatening to harm the victim or take away a survivor's victim. I see that in every case. Sometimes they threaten to harm the pets, or they acquire a weapon as a means of intimidation. They display excessive jealousy or paranoia. Remember that verbal and emotional abuse can at any time escalate to physical violence. The most dangerous thing for a survivor is to underestimate what an abuser is capable of. It can be hard when a survivor feels like they love their abusive partner and consequently keep giving them more chances to change. So the question is, what is your line? Where do you draw the line in the sand? Even if a survivor isn't ready to leave yet, creating a safety plan is always a smart idea. Within that safety plan, a survivor should think about what their final straw will be. What is a survivor willing to put up with, and what will they not? Well, no abuse is acceptable. No abuse is acceptable. I'm going to repeat that again. No abuse is acceptable. It may be that a survivor needs to tell themselves that they can handle someone who yells, but as soon as that person yells at their children, the survivor is out. When that limit is reached, a survivor should have a plan in place of where they're going to go or who they're going to call. With 1 in 3 women experiencing domestic violence worldwide, the question is not if you will encounter someone who is suffering violence. The question is, what will you do when you do encounter them? You could be the person who saves a life. You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice. And those who suffer violence, they need to know that those who love them and those who don't even know them will step out and reach out to them to give them the help and the courage they need to leave before it's too late. Help us share these messages with others so those who are suffering violence can recognize their situation and know how to leave, and those who are not will know how to help someone. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Hit the like button and the notification bell. Share these messages with others. If you're a victim of violence, I want you to listen to me, because you've been hearing lie after lie after lie after lie for so long. I want you to know that you are valued, you are loved, you are intelligent, and you are beautiful. God does not want you to suffer violence. He wants you to live free from violence in peace and tranquility. There is a way out, and it's not your fault. Abuse is not love. That's a lie. If someone says they love you and then they abuse you, they're lying to you, and they will not change. If you're a victim of violence, reach out to someone. If you find yourself in a dangerous situation, call 911 for help. In our next episode, we will be asking the question, will my partner be violent after I leave? Until then, God bless you.